Hi Poopsies, it's me, Tony Bomboni ASMR. Welcome back. If you are new here, welcome to the Poopsie tribe. Please subscribe and tap the bell and hit all notifications if you want to be a part of the Poopsie family and get new notifications of my videos as I upload every single day. Yes, every single day. And check my website, tonybomboni.com, if you want to help support this channel, keep the lights on. And it helps me also get stuff for videos and everything like that. So I have OnlyFans, Patreon, Cameo, my book, my merchandise, my ASMR albums. I offer services as well, like Reiki healing, tarot reading, coffee cup reading, candle wax reading, and custom ASMR content for you. You can use those coupon codes in the corner that I just showed on screen. Alright, so let's begin, Poopsies. Today's video is going to be a little bit of an uncomfortable subject, but I do like to push the boundary and talk about things I've never spoken about before, be more vulnerable. And, it's weird. A lot of times these videos are like self-help. Like, I get something out of it, just talking it out through you somehow, and then you get something out of it as well. And I felt it was time to sit down with myself and really talk it through. So, yeah, it's not really life advice video. It's more a story time. But, I guess sharing about my challenges, just as the title says, my struggles overcoming fear. And fear has been something that has been encircling my life consistently, I'm sure with most people's lives as well, but mine in particular, fear has been for the longest time a heavy subject. It no longer is, because I don't define it with my life anymore. Mostly thanks to Jesus. But I'll get into that and why I am where I am today. I'm not here to push my belief on anyone. I'm just here to share my story, my journey. But I have been a shy, afraid little child ever since a little child. As far back, I just wanted to share my story, as it's a story time format. As far as I remember, by the way, before I forget, I just want to show this awesome candle I just recently bought. This is Virgo. It's my Zodiac. Not a fan of the color, but I've been looking for centuries for a Virgo candle, and I finally found it. I love the fragrance. It's a very light fragrance. So now I just kind of light these when I do your tarot readings. It's Citrus Summit, which is weird. It doesn't smell anything of the sort, like citrus, but I would say it's like light peony flower or something like that. But anyway, moving on. I just thought I'd show because I love candles. Yeah, let me tap on it a bit. But you guys, fear. So since I was a little child, I have been fearful, as far as I remember. What my mother told me and what I remember as well. Like when she would go somewhere, like I would be hiding behind her leg, because I'm like, 3 years old? I'm like a really small, tiny dude, baby Bomboni, and people would make me nervous, uncomfortable. I feel really shy around them. And nowadays I understand it's just like the energies. I guess it's my first time on this planet, right? Bleep bloop blop. So people just made me anxious, uncomfortable. Yeah. Like, I just want to get off this planet, right? Like, no, but in all seriousness, it as a kid, you're more in tune with your energies than you are as an adult. So you kind of know and you feel something, and something doesn't feel right. You maybe walk by someone who had like really bad energy back in the 90s, and then now you're hiding behind your mom's leg because you're scared, right? Like kids just know, like, trust them, believe them. If they have a bad feeling about someone or something, please listen to your children, because they will save your butt. Because you know what? Especially kids nowadays, they're gifted and talented in ways that I'm even hearing kids now on YouTube videos, like ASMR artists who 18, 19, 20 years old, who are starting their YouTube channels, and I'm listening to the words coming out of their mouth, and I'm like, I'm just taken aback by their wisdom. I'm like, oh my God, you know. So, yeah, like, we've evolved, right? I mean, it's amazing. So, and I do believe in the whole first wave, second wave, third wave group of people, right? I believe I'm second wave. If you look at the work of Dolores Cannon, you will know what I'm talking about. But yeah, it's so fascinating, isn't it? And I would say overall that obviously as a kid you can't really control how you feel, kind of, in a way. You don't really learn. You're still developing your personality, I suppose. You're absorbing information. You're just a sponge at that age. Like, you don't know anything. Even if you know, like, in your spirit you know, but you don't know, you know? Okay, that's a weird way of wording things, but you know? Moving on. So I was fearful a lot. I was very shy, very uncomfortable, very nervous. People scared me, intimidated me, frightened me. I didn't like being stared at. It always made me uncomfortable. I can even feel when someone's staring at me, even like behind my head. Yeah, it didn't feel good. And I would get really, really nervous, like going to even like a shopping mall. Or so as far as I remember, into my teenage years, I suffered with severe anxiety to the point I didn't even want to leave the house most days. Actually, I didn't, you know. The only time I did was for school, and that's because I had to. And I just played a role, a mask, kept my cool, you know, so I wouldn't get made fun of because I got bullied a lot. So, it was very, very, very uncomfortable time for me, a depressing time. I'll get into later years, but I do want to start as a child. So I remember that specifically as a child, like growing up very fearful. So fear has always been a revolution. And I'll get into how I broke it, but starting with my journey, and looking back now in a different mindset, I can see why certain things happened, but I couldn't have helped it at the time, because at the time, again, like, you don't even develop your full personality until you're like 15, 16, like 14, 15. Yeah, did you know that? Crazy, right? So, for you to expect your 14, 15-year-old to know what to do is wrong, honestly. And you should give them a break, because, yeah, being a teenager is really hard. Your hormones out of whack. Puberty, just everything is out of proportion. You're getting stress and pressure from school, classmates, friends, breakups, and it's just awful. An awful time to be alive, in my personal opinion. That's just the way I viewed the world, through those eyes at the time. I'm not saying every teenager is like that. Not every teenager is like that. Okay. Plus we went through an economic recession at the time. I really hit my family hard. So it was everything on top of everything. Oh, my identity, that was another issue. So, like, I was like just ready to leave the planet at the time. You know, I just didn't want to be here anymore. So that's my experience. I was very, very afraid. I can't say to make new friends. That was always easy, but then they always came and left, right? Like, I never had a friend too long. I think it was harder for me to connect, but there was always a fear of losing someone, for sure, that I wouldn't be alone. There was always a fear of being alone. And maybe you felt the same. And by the way, leave a comment. What's your journey? What's your story? I don't care how long your comment is. Save it in a Word document if you have to, in your notes on your phone. Okay. And then, like, copy paste it from there so you don't lose it, because sometimes when you type YouTube, it doesn't go through, or your web page closes on accident with a pop-up or something. So make sure, you know. But type your story. How did you overcome fear? I want to hear. Others want to hear too. You know, people always reading the comments. So you can share with each other. You can grow your own community. You can connect with each other. That's what the comment section is for. I leave them open for you to express yourself, your truth. Open that throat chakra, okay? But I do need a glass of water. But moving on, I do want to talk about other matters here. Other manners here. So my coping mechanism was to suppress it, was to say, shut up, you're not valid. I was always suppressing my emotions, blocking them, closing them off, silencing them, popping headphones in my ear and blasting music. Was my way of therapy. Honestly, that's just a Virgo thing, but anyway. Talking to my friends, talking to a boyfriend at the time, right? Like, just getting my mind off it, off the feeling, numbing the pain. Sometimes I would be like, out of very volatile ways of dealing with, like, I would do like binge everything. I would binge tan, I would binge eat, like, I would binge watch movies, like anything just to get my mind off the fear. And it would still play. It would still play in my mind rapidly, and to the point sometimes I get panic attacks. Anxiety attacks, my neck, my back, my anxiety attack. I mean, like, all of the above, right? It was awful. And I had, I guess, some friends to help me through it because they knew how hard of a time I was going through. But, like, yeah, even those friends were fading. They had their own issues. They didn't want to hear it from me all the time. Like, oh, you're always complaining, Tony, or you're always, I even write about it in my book. There was this friend I had who, on the bus one day, she just told me, like, I just love to sit in that negativity, don't I? Like, in a bathtub full of negativity. Like, I just love to do it. And it really, it hurt my feelings so bad to this day. I'm like, OMG. Like, sometimes I still think about it, Sometimes one thing someone says to you will still sting even years later, and it's like, wow, but that was the true tea, though, at the time. Like, you don't realize it, but fear. I was always afraid every day, like, what's gonna happen next? Oh my God, this economy, what if we lose more money? What if we can't even afford to eat food? Now we have to go to a pantry. What if, my depression gets so bad I have to go to get help or something, or go to a clinic, and I would just be like, every day and I couldn't even sleep. Like, there was one day I was binge not sleeping. Like, I didn't sleep 3 days in a row, and my grades were slipping. I couldn't even focus in class. I fell asleep in class several times. I fainted in the hallway. It was bad. I had to go to the nurse several times, the counselor several times, the dean several times, because then all of a sudden, like, I'm getting involved. When you're such a low vibration state at the time, you're involved with other people's low vibration. So if someone's else on the same page, you're now involved in their drama. I got heavily involved with that girl on the bus I talked about in my book. I lost count how many times I went to the counselor, the deans, the principal, the vice principal, the teacher, the security. I lost count. Got into fights. Like, it was bad. Like, right, And so, I can't say I was a troubled kid, but it was always in secret. Like, I'd always get away with something. Like, one time I even, out of anger, like, broke the school door. I was just, no one found out. Like, I was always that kind of person. People would say that, like, I really can't say trouble teen, but, like, I was, even other stuff that I won't even go into on YouTube. But yeah, it was troublesome for sure for me. And, it was based on fear. Looking back, it was all based on because I was afraid. I was just afraid someone would hurt me, someone would do that to me, someone would affect me, someone would, me, right? At the time, as a teenager, that's all you think about. It's like, how does this make me feel? Oh, you hurt my feelings. Oh, please make it better. Please fix it. As if billions of other people in the world aren't going through the same thing you went through, okay? So, you don't realize the things at the time. And it took a long time. That was, I'm talking about events that were like 13 plus years ago. This is easier to talk about nowadays because it was like half of my life ago almost, right? And you're not as emotionally attached to it anymore, because even though it's still you, it's like it's not even you anymore, right? So it's fascinating. But I was in such negativity that that's all my life was based on. That's all I saw the world as, and that's all I was bringing to myself. There was nothing but fear. Everything was fear-based. Oh, I had to get a sugar daddy to, oh my God, so many awful things I've done. Like, because I was afraid of losing money. Like, what? Like, looking back, I'm like, what were you thinking? But, awful things. I won't even go into detail. But, yeah. So basically, I was just like, I'm not perfect now. I'm not an angel now, honey child. No, like, sometimes there are times where you're like, it's not that you slip up, but it's like there's the temptation, because, I believe the devil always tempts and lurks right in the corner, and you're like, I see you, devil, but you ain't gonna face me today. But, there's times where you go back to your old ways. You're like, oh, I want to really smoke and drink a lot again. Like, it's really tempting, and yeah, you just don't want to do that. What if I lost my sleep again and just chose mindless entertainment over empowerment and self-help and, doing all these things that can make you a better person overall, along with your own journey. You can do all of that. You can take 10 degrees if you want, but at the end of the day, there's a part of you that is pushing yourself. Like, people can only push you so far to change, and it's just about time, experience, and your personal soul contract journey here that will enable you to do what you're supposed to do, right? And you're naturally going to be drawn to the things that you are drawn to, that they click, they come together, and you're meant to do those things in your life. So I believe, looking back, that I was meant to go through that. Otherwise, I wouldn't know what the light meant. I had to go through darkness and do all of that crazy crap so that I would know what the other side is like. Because had I not done that, I would have maybe been in that now. If I was always in the light then, I maybe would have been in the darkness now. And we can't say for sure, but I would have maybe gotten more tempted to be in darkness. So now, it's a matter of just perspective. But I can even share a personal story. There was like a media interview, I think, for like Netflix or something. I'm supposed to be on this Netflix show, which I did end up doing, but it's like, it went wrong because, like, little did they know I was actually having a ton of anxiety that week. I don't know why. It just like 4 or 5 years ago. Like, I just had so much anxiety to the point I couldn't even do the show. I was like, nope. Same with like some documentaries. I was like, a couple documentaries. I at the same time I had to do it. I was like, nope. I could not do the Skype call. I could not do, and we didn't have Zoom then, so I could not do a phone interview. I could barely just do an email, like barely. Like, I was just barely even typing it. I was like, okay, one sentence, meaningless responses / replies. When you usually when I'm on articles, like news articles, they usually do that in email. Like, they don't bother even calling you. I only got like a couple times, maybe a few times, a phone call over the years for like a newspaper or something, but it's mostly over email. So like anything beyond that, I would get so uncomfortable. I'd be afraid of judgment, and it's all based on that fear of judgment when it comes down to it, when you analyze things deeper, at least for me. Fear of talking to a stranger at the time, fear of talking to someone new, just fear of being judged and criticized, because media could be nasty too. And that's why I stopped working with them a while ago, that they would always twist my words and say something different. They'll ask me what pizza I ate and how much it costs, and I'll say, I love pizza with anchovies, but I wish I could afford a $2,000 pizza that was actually really good. And then they're going to twist my words and say, I buy $2,000 anchovy pizzas. Obviously, that's not what happened, but that's how they twist your words in interviews. And I just hate it. I'm like, nope, I can't do this anymore. And so that's when I cut it off, because I'm like, this is toxic. This is not healthy. They just want to get a story, a quick buck to be on the page, whatever, there were moments where I was fearful though, but I did it anyway. I actually went into a Fox News station for this interview, and they ended up losing the footage. But, losing the footage. Anyway, I'll get into that another time, maybe someday in the future. But I was so afraid. This was my first big thing, and I just did it anyway. So it's it's not that it doesn't stop. It's not that how do I say this? It's not that fear stops me from doing things. It's just sometimes I let it get total control to the point where I don't even care. If I have the biggest Netflix show at the time interview and I don't want to do it, the care will just not be there. I just won't care. And my brain just shuts off. I just don't care about anything at the time. I don't care if this is the thing that will propel my career. My brain shut off and it just went blank. And it wasn't even about the fear anymore. I let the fear take over so much that my mind went blank. And even if I did the interview, I wouldn't have anything to say because my mind was blank. Literally, I went into psychosis at the time, I literally was just staring at a wall. Shortly after that, I was like, oh yeah, it was funny because I was like, I answered the call and I was like, I'll be online in 10 minutes. I need to get dressed. And I never called back. I was just I don't care mode. And it's hard to say, but why your brain does certain things, but it does play tricks on you. And I let that devil win at the time, I felt like I was being mocked, laughed at, and controlled and manipulated. And I didn't like the life I was living anymore. I didn't like that I have to maintain this perfect image. I didn't like that, I had to always care what people thought of me. I didn't have to, but that's what I made it to be. I was afraid of people's comments. Oh my God, every upload I would make, even on YouTube, for the first probably 6-7 years of YouTube, I would always have fear uploading every video. What are they going to say? What's the dislike bar going to look like this time? What are they going to think of how I look? And that was everything with the makeup and everything. Oh, I hope they don't see my acne, my wrinkles. Oh my God, I hope that this person doesn't criticize or comment that I look bad in this lighting today. Oh, the shirt was so wrinkly. I hope they don't. Oh, it was always about someone else, and I forgot about me for a long time. You guys did ask, but I did make a video already on my journey in the ASMR community. I already did a story time on that. You can look it up. But I'm trying to share my experience of fear and what I went through, my challenges to overcome it. So I want you to get a clear perspective on what fear can do in someone's life, how damaging it is. It's the worst drug you can imagine, right? Sometimes you're addicted to fear. That's all you focus on and do. And especially when this, whole thing came out last year. Oh my God, that's all, I was focused on. I was oh my God, we're all gonna die. Oh my God, I was just all over that. And then you sort of realize things. And then you sort of wake up and you're oh, okay, you're connecting the pieces and you're putting things together and you're realizing I made everything amplified 100 times worse than it actually was. Literally. In the literal sense. And I exaggerated everything. I dramatized everything. I was paranoid about everything. And there are moments and people in time that kind of wake you up to that. Like, oh, there's nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing to be fearful of. To this day, we still naturally will always be fearful. You can't stop fear. You can't suppress it, right? You just can't, right? It's just not possible. But what you can do is the bravery and the courage to continue regardless of the feeling. So, yeah, recently I can't say what I did, but I did do something that made me feel very uncomfortable, but I'm so happy. So glad I did it. It was part of my preps. I consider myself a little bit of a prepper. And I had to go somewhere to get something, long story short. And it made me very nervous and very uncomfortable. But I was like, you know what? It's time. I have the right as a U.S. citizen. It made me feel very good. But the thing made me uncomfortable for so long because I was afraid, like, oh, what if this happens if I mistakenly use this thing the wrong way? And it's like, yeah. So it's good to protect yourself, but like I said, it made me nervous for so long, but I was like shutting off the fear, like the whole day. My mind was like, no, don't do it, don't go, don't get it, nope, don't buy it, nope. But I did. I was like, ha 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 ha. I laugh in your face, ha ha ha, fear. I will anyway, and I did, and it felt, I can't say I felt better. I didn't really feel anything after that. It didn't make me feel better, didn't make me like magically make my fear go away. It just made me like realize, okay, I can choose. I can have the choice to do something that I'm afraid of. And I did. And it's like, okay, to this day, I still have the ability, right? Like I'm not completely blocked. And now I can say openly and easily that I've overcome it. I don't have a fear of going to like the store by myself, a long time ago. I never, like, it was never crippling to the point where I couldn't go. Like some people express their stories, they're like grown men and women, like even like muscular, and they're like big and buff and tall, and they're literally sitting in the parking lot and crying because they can't go in the store. There's people like that out there, plenty. And I'm so happy that's not my personal experience. I feel for those people because I've suffered for most of my life with anxiety, many years, crippling. Again, some days I just couldn't leave the house. I knew I had to get something from the store, but I just couldn't leave the house. So in that essence, it was bad, but I would say like not so bad to where I get there and then I have to drive back. No, like, like I will just go, suck it up. Like I was always raised like kind of like, I guess, toughen up, suck it up type of attitude, but in a gentle way where it's not like forceful, like they were very approaching it with a love kind of attitude. And so I felt like if someone were to just tell me, oh, suck it up, it would just make me even more mad and just not want to do what makes me afraid even more, right? So, but yeah, it's like once you get in that store or once you do that thing that makes you uncomfortable, once you're there, it's gone. The fear is gone. You're like, oh, there was nothing to be afraid of. I'm here. It's done. No one's looking at me. No one's judging me. No one even cares. And when we realize, like, no one even thinks about us. No one cares about, no one knows us. Like, literally nobody knows you in that store. It's like, oh, wow, the fear is gone. And what helped me to overcome fear was actually moving far away from my hometown, because every time I would go in, like, a mall or a store, I'd be like, oh, my God, what if there's someone from school recognize me, or a teacher or something? And I would always be afraid. And then, like, it kind of went away on its own, moving far away. And it was like, oh, well, no one here knows me. So it felt really good to be a blank, clean slate. No identity. That always felt good to me. Like, I still have fantasies sometimes, like, just going into the mountains, never to be heard or seen of again. I don't know why. I just always kind of, like, enjoyed the idea of that. Getting away, escaping. And, yeah, there were even times that I tried to, like, run from home or, like, sneak out at night, because it was out of fear. What if my family disobeys me, doesn't like me anymore? What if there's no future for me here left? What if they can't support for me and provide for me? And when my family went through a tough situation, tough hardship, tough financial hardship times, whatever you call it, my mind activated to a defensive mode, a survivor mode, and I had to learn how to survive, save money. I had to pinch every penny and do things on my own, purchase my own memberships or purchase my own things in school, my own food, and sometimes I would purposely just cut my food intake just to save that extra dollar every day, just so I can afford something that I wanted to get for myself. Since I didn't work at the time, so it was you have to learn how to get through that fear, right? Even flying halfway across the country to meet someone, I had my couple experiences with that myself, and you're alone and you're afraid and you don't know what the person can think of you, and friend and relationship, it's so many things I can think of looking back that I could have just said, no, I'm not going to do it, I'm too afraid, but I did anyway. Having to go under anesthesia, you think of all the events in your life, it's the first time you're afraid, going to a skyscraper and walking by the window, working in a skyscraper, that was scary, yeah, so I would say, looking back, I think what helps is looking back. When you realize how much you've done, that there's nothing to be afraid of. You're still okay. You're alive. You have all your body parts in order, working, functioning fine and healthy. Thank you, God, for that. And my faith really came to me, something happened. And I never spoke about it, but I was actually attacked. And yeah, I was afraid for myself, and God was there. Long story short, God was there, and I felt him in my spirit finally, and I felt the angels. That day I actually saw them. I actually saw the angels come. There were 2 big ones that just embraced me, and I know they're there. We all have them. We all have our guardians, and they're big and loving, and there's no fear with them. When you're in their arms, everything's okay. And there's nothing left to fear in that moment. And I was now that I think about it, every time, let's say I'm just going to throw the trash outside at night, and I feel like a cobweb all over me. That happens sometimes. You're out at night, and then you walk through a cobweb. My first initial reaction is, oh my God, get this spider off me. Oh my God, it's gonna bite me. Oh my God. Now, when something like that happens, or I see a big spider outside, and it's between the sidewalk where you can't walk, you have to kind of walk over it or hop over it, and I'm afraid it's going to jump on me. In that moment, I pause right away and I say, Jesus is with me, and I do it, and then nothing happens. That's just my way of dealing with it, whether you call it a coping mechanism or just something that you use to empower you, the tools in your toolbox of life. Whenever I do that now, when I'm afraid of something, I just say, Jesus is with me. And I'm not afraid anymore. I do it, and I feel stronger and braver because of it. And that was the only thing that ever helped me. Ever. Now, it may be hard to do if you don't have a certain particular belief system / faith. For you, I would say, you could say something like, the universe is with me. I have the power of the universe with me. Wow, when you hold that power, it's why are you afraid, right? It's that spider is a little tiny thing. Heck, we're this little tiny thing. Heck, our earth is this little tiny thing compared to everything else out there. So, you're going to be afraid of that? Really? Okay. All right. But yeah, there are bigger things than that spider, right? Talking to a media for an interview, and then many people having to eventually see it and judge you and your appearance and stuff, or talking on a stage, or doing a speech, which thank God I only ever got to do in English class. Like, I don't even see it. I still have a fear to this day talking in public. Like, I get shaky, nervous, my cheeks flush. Maybe someday, maybe, but do I have an interest to do it? Kind of, which is bothersome because it's like, okay, if the interest is there and you're afraid, right, there's something you can push yourself to do more. Will it lead to my happiness and peace? No, probably not. Like nothing else ever has. It's always within. Doing something will never lead you to happiness. It's always within. It's a feeling. You can have all the success in the world, honey child. Ain't nothing gonna make you feel better. It's just a band-aid for the bigger issue. So until you resolve and get through your deeper workings, it's never going to go away. And I always have to remind myself, it's a daily reminder that God's there, We forget. We're carnal minds. We're of the flesh. We're having to constantly remind ourselves of what's out there and that it's not just us. We're not alone. Many people right now are fearing what happened in 2008, financial stress and struggles. There's a lot of fear in general going on about people's health, people's well-being, the uncertainty of the future, right? What if I have to do something I don't want to do, right? So it's a lot, and I would say the faith is the only thing at this point that can save us. That's my opinion. That's right now where I'm at in life. And I never, ever, ever thought I would say that. But pain taught me. I'm grateful for pain. Pain is a teacher. And fear is pain. Pain is fear. You know what? Like, heck, even being in the hospital, almost dying. Like, I remember that too. Gosh, like, so afraid. So afraid. And not even having the resources to deal with it. Because you're only like 8 years old. Scary, right? You only have a mother and a father there to be there with you at the time. To make you not afraid. So it's so important how we raise our children, how they grow up, and what they overcome, and that strengthens us, right? Sometimes you're afraid to do something, but you do it anyway because it's right, like walking out on a teacher who just flat out said you were terrible. And then through that bravery and strength, you teach other people, telling that guy that you have a crush on that you liked, and then they tell the whole school, and you're afraid to go to school, but you do it anyway. You don't quit. You don't have a day off. You don't go to another school. You stand up and you fight because that's what we're here to do. We're light workers, honey, okay? So we have to do what we don't want to do sometimes. We're assigned to do that. And may that inspire you. May that allow you, whatever you're afraid of, to know that everything will be all right. If you look back, you went through it all, and you'll continue to go through it all so long as you are assigned on this planet. And fear is just a liar, like the devil is a liar. So, thank you for listening to me, hearing out my story. I could have let fear make me age and grow tiresome of it. But you know what? When it comes through, you prepare. At the time, you can't even prepare for fear because you don't know what else will make you afraid. You ever think about that? Like, wow, it's like an earthquake. You know when it's going to come, right? So the best you can do is using your tools at the time. In your mind, you pause. When something makes you afraid, you pause and say, how am I going to handle this right now? What in my toolbox, in my mind, is going to handle this right now in a healthy way that will allow me to continue handling future events similar to this? And we reflect on that moment and we realize fear will always be our reaction. It's almost like a choice, like we choose to be afraid. I could have chosen to stay until that spider moves or jump over it. Or I could have chose to squish it, but that's not what I choose. So, yeah, it's what you choose. Are we going to choose to be afraid of this, or are we going to say, you know what? Why don't we see ourselves already having done that event and how we're going to feel after? Let's think ahead and see ourselves already getting this event over with and doing it. Doing it what makes us afraid. And the more we do it, the less afraid we are. Now I can walk into that store next time with more confidence. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I think that was everything in terms of fear. Major events. I'm sure there's many, many, many more minor events, but that I could talk to and share that, yeah, it's a constant battle. It's never like one specific answer for overcoming it. Even if you have faith, sometimes you're going to have to do something that makes you so afraid that even the biggest faith will make you feel like you're still afraid. And just like with anything else, even if you had no tools in your toolbox, how did you overcome the first fear? Did you do it? Maybe I had to keep going through it to realize there was nothing to be afraid of all along. And to realize how to do certain things so that I'm less fearful next time around. Not much more to say about this subject, so I appreciate you for listening to my story time, being here with me. And what makes you afraid? I want to hear in the comments. How did you overcome it? Are you still overcoming it? Share your stories. I'm curious to know. Take care now. And you're not alone. Look how much I went through. Look how much other people went through with fear, right? It will be overcome. It will be overcome. Just have faith in knowing that you will get there. You will overcome it. It will pass. And you'll enjoy the journey.